Hey folks, welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. I hope everyone's doing well. So there was a story that I saw, it must have been yesterday, and it concerned Jarrell Big Baby Miller and Fabio Wardley. Well, the story didn't really concern Fabio Wardley. It's about the upcoming fight between Fabio Wardley and Big Baby Miller. Now you might remember that there was a press conference at Portman Road, the hometown of Ipswich Town Football Club, and the press conference sort of got out of hand a little bit. Big Baby Miller seemed to think that Fabio Wardley had made some song about him that was disrespectful. And Fabio Wardley was saying, well, no, look, I've got nothing to do with this song. I've not even heard this song. If I'd had, I would have, I'd man up and say that, yes, I have, but I haven't. Big Baby Miller seemed not to take that at face value and seemed to get more and more agitated, and eventually reached out and sort of clipped Fabio's face with maybe the tips of his fingers. I made a video about it, and I think I asked, was it, grass-fed beef or lab-grown beef? In other words, is it real or is it fake? And I think I came down on the side of it being, promotional hoo-ha. Because, quite frankly, I think if Big Baby Miller had wanted to close the distance and get to Fabio Wardley as a professional fighter and a 330-pound man, I don't think that the rented security guards would have been able to stop him. So I thought it was promotional shenanigans, the likes of which we've seen now many times, and quite frankly, they're quite boring. Well, the British Boxing Board of Control seem to have taken a somewhat different view. Apparently, according to the Ring magazine, Mike Coppinger, formerly ESPN, Jarrell Big Baby Miller will see a portion of his purse withheld by the British Boxing Board of Control ahead of his June the 7th fight in Ipswich, England with Fabio Wardley due to his behaviour at Monday's news conference, per an email obtained by the Ring. Now, Miller, who's 26-1-2 with 22 KOs, he, according to the Ring, shoved Wardley in the face. As I said, I don't think it was a shove. It was more like a grazing fingers touch. But anyways, whatever. And apparently, the British Boxing Board of Control have sent an email or letter to Frank Warren, who's the promoter. And it says, please advise Mr. Miller's team that his future conduct is being monitored, and any repeat of his behaviour at the press conference on 7th of April 2025 in Ipswich may result in permission to box in the UK not being granted, and disciplinary action and a fine is a possibility, per Robert Smith, the General Secretary of the BBBoC. So that letter was sent to Frank Warren, and it goes on to say, therefore, it is being considered that a percentage of Mr. Miller's purse is lodged with the board prior to the bout, of which I will advise accordingly. It's really fractured English. Therefore, it is being considered that a percentage of Mr. Miller's purse is lodged with the board prior to the bout, of which I will... Okay. So it seems to be, and I think that this letter seems to be like one of those half legalese kind of letters, but not written by a person. Anyways, never mind. I digress. It appears that the British Boxing Board of Control is somewhat upset with Big Baby Miller's performance at this press conference. They are clearly concerned about it happening again. And they are warning Frank Warren to, warn Big Baby Miller's team that if this happens again, your permission to box in the UK may be withheld, and there may be a fine imposed upon you. Now, of course, there's not much point in imposing a fine on Big Baby Miller, who's an American, licensed to box in the United States of America. He could just, quite frankly, give them the middle finger and not pay. So in order to preserve some financial asset, the Boxing Board of Control want to have a portion of the purse payable to Big Baby Miller lodged with them. So let's say he's being paid X 100,000. They might say to Frank Warren, we would like 100,000 of that lodged with us in trust, so that if Big Baby Miller screws up, we will retain that as a fine. It's a way of ensuring that a fine gets paid. Lots of regulatory agencies impose, they're not fines. Fines can only be imposed by a court, but they impose a administrative penalty. And many of those administrative penalties go unpaid. There's often no real recourse to getting them paid. There's just a debt, if you like, that's owed by a regulated entity to the regulator. Well, in this case, the British Boxing Board of Control wants to make sure that there's some money in the kitty, so if they impose a penalty upon Mr. Miller, that money would then go to the British Boxing Board of Control. I think it's, sort of storm in teacup kind of thing, because I don't actually think it's a real beef, but it is what it is, right? Miller is from Brooklyn and is licensed to fight in New York, and apparently Matthew Delagio, the executive director of the New York Commission, was copied on the email. So, telling the New York Commission that one of their licensed fighters is naughty in England, I suppose. The article then goes on to say, this is the latest disciplinary action taken by the British Boxing Board of Control. Last month, Chris Eubank Jr. was fined £100,000 after he slapped Conor Benn with an egg at a news conference. Blah, 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 blah. It's just more of the same, really. The article does say that Miller has been suspended multiple times for performance-enhancing drug use. And in 2019, a drug ban scrapped his title shot against Anthony Joshua. I suspect that had far more impact than any potential British Boxing Board of Control administrative penalty they may impose upon him over the Wardley thing. But it doesn't look like he's going to have any penalty for what he did. It looks like this is a way of preserving some money in case he's a naughty boy again. There we go. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Let me know whether whatever you want to say about Big Baby Miller. Let me know what you think. And please like, share, and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you.